Alrighty folks, want to welcome you back to another video from Yates Computers Tips and Reviews. So, going on 3 years of doing videos, got very few subscribers. Want to thank everybody who has subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, head over now and subscribe. Join YouTube, do whatever you got to do. Get the subscriptions. I got to get my subscription numbers up and get the viewing up. Got to go back, watch all these videos. There's a lot of important videos that are out there. So for this one is another important factor that's out there. I know I've talked a lot about this already in a lot of videos, but I actually have something that I needed to show because I finally got one, but to show for the videos. The differences between an HDMI and a display cable. There are huge differences. They're not interchangeable. Well, they are, but they're not. You can get cables that go from HDMI to display to HDMI. I've shown converters. You can get different kind of converters that will convert from different connections to different things. Now, certain things are not backwards compatible. They're only forward compatible. When you get into the old technology, you have to have it where it's powered by USB to upgrade to digital. So there is some differences. This pin structure is digital. When you get back to analog, you can't go from analog to digital. You can go from digital to analog without power. There's a difference there because the device is able to compensate and downgrade the video feed. Downgrading is one thing. You cannot really upgrade without a device that's capable. So, wanted to show the connector on a display cable because it's pretty close, pretty similar to the HDMI. Except for you see a difference? One side has the curved side. HDMI has both. Let me actually show you the actual other. I have a little short cable here that I can show you. Cable to cable, same connectors. The difference. So if you look at the back of your computer, you got to look really kind of closely to see which one you actually have. There's different markings on the back also if your faceplate actually has the markings. A display has a little D symbol next to it. HDMI usually says HDMI or has an H there. But it can get confusing because you might have multiple, like I mentioned on video cards, multiple outputs. So I actually got this, and this is the perfect time to show how they come in with the cover on them. So that's another thing that can get a little confusing because if you look, you might not notice they're different because they have caps on the end so you don't damage the pins. Of course, they're not edged, curved, or to custom fit tight around there. They're just a cap. It's a generic cap. Both caps look pretty much identical. So for my 3-year video, I want to thank everybody for being there. And I wanted to go through this because, again, this is part of my rabbit hole year. And this is kind of the rabbit hole effect again. Because now you have new monitors that can display and handle both of these connections. You have video cards that can handle both of these connections. You might be buying a computer and it might give you the option to choose between one of the two connections. You'll have to do your research because it changes a lot between the differences between this and that. One thing with display cables is they advertise with the new ones, you can daisy chain or link monitors. So you can run one cable out into a monitor and run it into another monitor, and it will mirror, share, it'll do everything the same as running two cables. But there's some variables there. But what the refresh rate and all of that varies a lot by doing that. That might be a difference between these two cables that you might need to look at. There's different versions of these cables. Different versions of ports. So there's a huge variable here. That's why it's the rabbit hole. Because you can go in pretty deep depending on what you really want to do. If you're gaming, you're doing heavy graphics, and you're doing a lot of stuff, this is probably going to be one of those factors you're going to look into. And again, depending on not only your monitor, what your refresh rate on your monitor, what kind of video card, what kind of cable, what rated cable, what version cable, how long of a cable, all these factors start to come into play. But if you're doing some home business and you're doing some other little stuff, all you got to do is make sure they're compatible and you don't have that big of a problem. So this is why it's considered a rabbit hole subject to me. Because it can be real simple for home users. Yeah, no problem. I can use an HDMI and HDMI. I can use HDMI 1 or HDMI 2 or HDMI 3 or whatever. Doesn't matter. As long as I get a video feed. Well, there's one more variable in here. This does not only do video. This can do your audio. So instead of having a headphone jack that goes out to speakers or another output that goes out, maybe you have stereo sound. I've shown a video of that in the older days. Had a 5.1 surround sound that was better than the home stereo. That could be pretty loud. That you have those variables. If you don't need all of that, you want basic audio, basic sound. And I'm saying basic, but it really isn't basic anymore. Nothing today is basic. Unless you're looking at old technology. And with Windows 11 coming in, everything being unsupported of old tech, old legacy stuff is going to be coming out. So a lot of these variables are now considered a basic, but they're not really a basic because you can still add an audio card into your computer and add 5.1, 7.1, 10.1 audio. You can have 10.2. And this is the rabbit hole effect when you get into stuff like this. Because now this can carry your audio to your monitor. Well, what's interesting is if you buy newer monitors, that headphone jack, that audio output that's on your computer necessarily isn't on your computer anymore. It can also be on your monitor. So you can hook speakers up to your monitor and play out the audio. So it draws out a whole different variable here. This is the rabbit hole effect. Of course, if you're not interested in any of that, then it's not a big deal. But again, headphone jack is one outsource audio. 7.1, 10.1, 10.2. That's going to be multiple outputs. That's going to be multiple headphone jacks or other output lines to their different speaker setups to do those effects. There are virtual sounds that can come out of a single speaker bar. You've seen it on TVs, they advertise it. the virtual surround sound. It's just a solid speaker bar that goes underneath, and the way the speakers are positioned and how they do creates that virtual sound. So, wanted to go through that and express that because I don't like saying this is an HDMI video cable. It's not an HDMI video cable. It is an HDMI cable. I hear a lot of people mention this is a display cable. That's for your video. No! These are used on surround sound systems today. On standalone stereo units. If you have a fancy, newer surround sound in your home, you are having multiple of these attached from all your devices into your stereo, out of your stereo, into your TV. So this is not a video cable. So I wanted to elaborate that because it's the 3 years mark, October, the big celebration of 3 years. Hopefully I can get a bunch of people to subscribe. Hopefully I can get a bunch of people educated and informed to know the difference between what these are and what they do. What they were originally designed for and how they originally came out is what they're used for. But people say today, if you watch a lot of stuff, this is an HDMI video cable. If you hook this up to a DVD player to your TV, is it a video cable? No, because you are getting audio through this cable. I know it's just an easy term that they used, but it's an incorrect term. It's not an HDMI video cable. It's an HDMI cable that carries digital signal. If you look at the standard and you look at a lot of things, if you look at the new ports, you can actually control devices like your TV, turn your TV on when you turn on your DVD player. So it actually sends a signal through the HDMI to your TV and say turn on because this device turned on. So this is not a display cable. This is just a cable. It transmits data, transmits audio, transmits video in digital format. So, and it carries power. Wanting to make sure people are aware of that. Some testing I've done on some things, I found this actually carries power. If you testing splitters and other things that need to be powered, I've plugged this into a computer, plugged it into that device without it having the power cable, and the power light turns on. I thought that was interesting. I did not realize it carries that much voltage. It carries voltage also through this cable. So that's the thing I want to make sure people are aware, because if you're working on your walls doing construction, you cut these, you might have an issue. We've had pins break, a TV go bad, and it makes you question, now why did the TV go bad? Did these pins get smushed and there's voltage in it where it crossed and shorted out the TV? These are some of these little variables I wanted to bring up. I don't know for a fact on voltage on this, but most likely it probably does. And again, it's lower voltage. It's not high voltage, but it is voltage. And voltage in a bad place can do bad things. So just a thing to be aware of. Hot swappable and all of that type of stuff. You probably don't want to do having your TVs live and moving cables around, because you might do something to a device. might be best practice to turn everything off, unplug it, run your cables, plug it all back in, make sure everything's safe. Because the worst thing you want to do is blow out your $2,000, $3,000 TV, your DVD player, or something. Because then you got to buy a new one, and you can't find what you had, and then you got to order, and you go through a bunch of hassles. All because you changed cables, upgraded cables, any of those type of things. So this is my 3-year video. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Hope everybody heads over and subscribes. Thank you so much.